Aloha and welcome back. Thank you for joining in this series. And in this recording, we're going to be talking about the 5 elements. Now, this is something that I did not know before I started training with Master Sha. As mentioned before, Master Sha is a world-renowned healer. He's a doctor of both traditional Chinese medicine and Western allopathic medicine. So he knows this wisdom inside out. And he recognizes that, people like you and me, we're going to get limited knowledge or value out of this. So he brought it down to a very simple, scalable manner, which I'm going to share with you now, so that we can understand, well, what are the 5 elements and what value does it have to me to understand a little bit more about it? So let's go ahead and get started. So what are the 5 elements? Well, according to traditional Chinese medicine, they are a universal law that the 5 elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, are actually in all things. They're in your cells. They're in and around Mother Earth. In fact, they're in all planets, stars, galaxies, and universes. And they're either in balance or they're out of balance. So when it comes to health and wellness, what does that have to do with us? Well, in the Western medicine model, they look at organs and systems and everything very individually. They do not necessarily always see any connectivity between them. But in the Eastern traditional Chinese medicine model, they do actually look at everything as connective. So for example, the wood, fire, earth, metal, water are actually written in that order. Wood nourishes the fire. The fire then breaks down this wood and it melts into Mother Earth. Earth is the carrier of all of the metals. The metals then form like metal pails or buckets, and those metal pails or buckets carry the water. The water then feeds and nourishes the wood, which nourishes the fire, which melts down to earth, which creates the metal, which carries the water, which feeds the wood. This is called the nourishing cycle. Now, how does that relate to us in the 5-element chart? Well, when you go to acupuncturist or a TCM doctor, what they're actually doing, they check your tongue and they poke around a little bit. They'll check your pulse and things like that. But they're connecting organs. They're actually seeing what the connectivity is. They'll ask you questions like, have you been sad lately? You say, yes, actually, I lost my mom. Okay, well, that's connected to the earth element. They might ask you, do you have any anger issues? Because maybe they check something and they can see that's associated with your liver and your wood element. So you might hear some unique questions from them because they're starting to see the connectivity. Let's look at a good example right here as we do this. So in the wood element, you see this chart here. And this chart can actually go across 20 deep. So if you went down the professional road, you would see a lot more categories than just this. But in the wood element, you see there is the liver, which is the yin organ, the gallbladder, which is what's called the paired yang organ, and then the body tissue, which is the tendons and the nails. So if you have tendonitis a lot, it could be connected to the wood element, excuse me. The bodily fluid is the tears. Eyesight, this is your sense organ. Eyesight is very relevant, very important. And so those that have poor eyesight, there could be a connectivity to poor liver function. The imbalanced emotion of anger, right? Raise your hand if you've ever had anger. This could indicate some imbalances amongst the wood elements. And of course, the balanced emotion of patience. And then we move on to the fire element because the wood feeds and nourishes the fire. What is the fire element? Well, in the human body, it's associated with the heart. And that's called the yin organ. What's the paired yang organ? The small intestine. The blood vessels are also connected. Now you'll notice these are the body tissues. Each one has yin, yang, body tissue, body fluid, and a sense organ and an unbalanced emotion. I find it very curious. The body fluid for the fire is sweat. And look at what the unbalanced emotions is. Depression and anxiety. Have you had depression and anxiety? Is that something you can say, oh yeah, I know that one, right? Or have you had anger? And so what happens is it starts to open up our mind to the very unique possibility of things that we didn't understand. And so we go back and we look and we see that The balanced emotion is joy. The balanced emotion is joy. And so it's truly remarkable. So we have this unique chart that for some of you might have been seeing for the very first time, and it starts to connect some dots. Let's take a look at the earth element. So the earth element has, for the yin organ, the spleen, and for the yang organ, the stomach. Okay, what do these sound like? Well, the stomach is definitely digestion related. Okay, and the spleen is actually known in traditional Chinese medicine as the boss of the digestion process. How many of you have muscle pain, muscle aches, constant, long-term fibromyalgia, things of that nature? TCM would look at it very differently. They would say, they might ask you, are you a person that worries all the time? Do you worry a lot? How's your digestive issues? Because from their perspective, that could be related to what's happening with your muscles. Interesting, right? Now, also, we look at saliva being the body fluid, and the sense organ is the lips, mouth, teeth, and gums, which is where our speech comes from. So sometimes it could be related to speaking out of order or not speaking our mind. Could possibly be impacting our digestive processes and creating muscle pain for us. Interesting, huh? And the imbalanced emotion is actually worry. Okay, so how do we balance the worry? Love, compassion. Let's move over to the metal element. The metal element for me has been my area of imbalance. I've about a good half of my life had some allergic issues, which eventually led to some breathing concerns. My skin is not that good a quality. And so I was quite shocked for the first time to see that the metal element is the lungs. And it's connected to the large intestine. This is the paired organ, the large intestine. And I found that very interesting because my whole life I've had allergies, which happen where? In almost all of us, they happen in the digestive process, right? In the large intestine where it's processing your food. And then the food does not get processed properly. And these toxins escape into the bloodstream, creating potentially asthmatic conditions. I found that quite interesting myself. And the skin can be negatively impacted when there are imbalances in the metal element. What's mucus? Mucus is connected to nose and smell, okay? I can tell you personally that I didn't know about this when I was training as a master in Korea, like a lifetime ago, but this life, but it was a long time ago. I was in the fish market in Korea, in Seoul, and I'm walking down it's like a market, right? I'm walking in between, and there's people everywhere. And on this side is like, I don't know, 500 fish just piled up, right? Just stinky fish. And on this side is fresh, raw, peeled garlic. Guess what I smelled? Nothing, because I had metal element issues. This is before I met Master Sha. Before I'm fine now. I can smell anything now. It's great because I healed my metal element. So my point is, I grew up with digestive issues. I grew up with allergy issues. I grew up with breathing issues. Couldn't smell. I had no clue this connectivity. And here I see it in this chart that they're all connected. Why couldn't the Western medicine model tell me that? Because there's different perspectives. Now, I don't remember having grief and sadness. I probably did. But this is also an imbalanced emotion. And the balanced emotion is courage. Let's move on to the next one. The water element. What are we made of? We are made of 90% water when we're born. The kidneys are the first organ that is seen under a microscope when an embryo is being born. Do you think the water element is important? The answer is yes, it absolutely is. And in the traditional Chinese medicine model, the kidneys are the yin organ and the urinary bladder is the paired yang organ. And then isn't it curious that the bones and the joints, do you have joint pain? Do you have weak bones? Very well could be associated with imbalances in the water element. Do you have problems with your kidneys? Do you have fear? Because a lot of people have fear, which could be associated with weak kidneys. Or hearing issues, right? This is a sensory organ. So it's quite interesting when you start to piece all these together that if you have fear, you can see it could have associations with the kidneys. If you have weak kidneys, it could have an association with hearing also affects the brain. You know, a weak brain has associations to weak kidneys. I had no idea about any of this in the 5-element charts until I started training with this teacher, Dr. and Master Sha. So that's a snippet of the value of the 5 elements. Of course, there's far greater, more advanced teachings moving forward, but this will give you a little bit of a taster, okay? I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.